Welcome to Lala Beams. This is episode 19. It is me, Lala, and today I have Dave Weiss, flat earth expert, and we're going to go into the who's, what's, where's, why's, how's, and what the fucks of the theory of flat earth. As always, I am here to help you question everything that you know to be true. I personally have only dipped my toe in the very level pool of water on the theory that the earth is flat. However, I come from the mindset that if they taught us it in school, there's a very high probability of it being at least partly fabricated. So I am stoked to have you on the show today to school me and the listeners.
Wow, I was so nervous that you're going to say if they taught it in school, it's probably true. Thank God you didn't.
So tell the listeners where they can find you, any projects that you're currently working on.
The Flat Earth Podcast is my podcast, Instagram, Facebook page by the same name, The Flat Earth Podcast. And I've created the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app because Google is hiding the truth from you. We've been brainwashed our entire lives since we were small children that the Earth is a globe. And once you start realizing the amount of effort that they put behind it to deceive you, you'll start to see the problem. And then there's going to be a point, for new listeners that to this topic, like what difference does it make? At one point, you're going to say during this, and the shape of the earth makes no difference. It's the lie that matters.
Can you go into a little bit about what the Zodiac Clock is and does?
The Flat Earth Zodiac Clock app is like, if you Google Flat Earth, the problem is you're going to get garbage. You're going to get the Flat Earth Society. You're going to, the Flat Earth Society wants you to think that the Earth is a disk floating in space with other round planets. Well, that's not the case at all. Nobody believes that. So what the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock does is it will give you the real information, the information that Google is hiding from you. Can I screen share? Well, we're doing an audio podcast, but basically it's called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. I'll just show you on the screen here what it looks like. It's available on Google Play and iOS. And basically it shows you how seasons work, how day and night work, how the sky is a perfect clock, how the sun and the moon and the stars keep track of the days, the season, the year, the weeks, the months, the seasons. And every day on the app, there's a new featured video that shows up. And I tell people, take the Flat Earth app challenge. Watch that daily video every day for 2 weeks. And then you too will lose the respect of your family and friends because you'll be a flat earther. And I'm also offering a Bitcoin for anyone that knows what Bitcoin is. It's worth 60 grand about now. And for anyone that can come up with one proof of the globe. But before you give the proof of the globe, you have to hit the question mark button and up come all of the questions that you could possibly ask. And when you click any one of them, up comes a playlist of videos that Google will not serve you. Like if you search top 10 reasons the earth is a globe, the earth is flat, you're going to get top 10 reasons the earth is a globe. There's government paid shills out there that will follow me. Like in your comment section, if you have a comment section on this, they'll all be there following me saying I'm a scammer. I say, don't believe anything I say. I'm going to point to some doors. I'm going to show you that they're there. It's up to you whether you want to look and verify anything. So
exactly.
There you go.
Just today, someone posted something about that on 11/11 at 11:11 a.m. plus or minus 30 seconds. This monument lines up perfectly with the North Pole, I believe. And I think you said something similar about the Georgia Guidestones as well.
Yeah.
So similar to that?
Yeah, the Georgia Guidestones have a little hole in them. And when you look through the hole, the Polaris is there, the North Star. So it lines up all the time. Anything, by the way, anything that lines up with Polaris always lines up with Polaris because Polaris doesn't move, right? But, they want us to think that, the heliocentric model says basically that we are corkscrewing through space, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles an hour, chasing the sun at 500,000 miles per hour, while that entire system moves sideways at 1 to 2 million miles per hour. All of those directions, all of that movement, but the stars never change. Go out tonight, look at the stars at whatever time, make a little chart, and then go out next year, same night, same time. The stars will be in the exact same position, even though we've corked through space in 4 different directions, traveling billions of miles, but nothing ever changes. The sky is a perfect clock. Though every single thing about our solar system, from eclipses to planetary orbits, prove it's a lie in itself. It's all just lies upon lies. Like, for example, they tell us that the Earth, the center of the Earth, is a molten metal core, right? You've heard molten metal magnet, right?
Yes.
Magnets cannot be magnets lose their magnetism when you heat them up past their Curie point, which is even before they melt, right? You can't have a hot magnet. So they're lying that. And the deepest hole ever dug is 7.5 miles. That's like drilling halfway through the skin of an apple. Okay. And while they were digging, they were wrong every step of the way with what they thought they were going to hit. They were using ground penetrating radar to see what they're going to hit next, and they were wrong. And then somehow, after hitting an impenetrable barrier halfway through the skin of an apple, they know what the next 4,000 miles is.
Right.
Pseudoscience. You know, that meme of the Earth being sliced open where they show all the layers that they teach all the kids in school. That's a meme. There's zero scientific evidence behind it.
So
It's just a meme.
tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how long you've been researching this,
Yeah.
and how you got into it.
So I was always question things, not too, I was a normal kid. I live in Connecticut, grow up in Connecticut, still live in Connecticut. And I worked in corporate America. And then I had a buddy that I worked with, and we were always talking about stuff in the lunchroom. And one thing that we were really getting into was the Federal Reserve, and where does money come from, and who's the Federal Reserve. And people, this was back when people didn't know that the Federal Reserve was a private bank. They didn't know that money was made out of thin air and lent to the US government at interest, which makes no sense whatsoever. But every day we'd go in a lunchroom, and more people would be there. And so all of a sudden, my buddy goes, "Hey, we've got an opportunity to do a podcast with a buddy of his out of New York City." I'm like, "What's a podcast?" Didn't even know. Right. So we started doing this podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, basically looking at deceptions like the Federal Reserve and lots of the bang bang events that go around, and the New York event and all these other things. And we got into some deep stuff, and I was open to see, like, all right, you say this event was fake. Let me look into it. And I don't assume, that anything's real without verifying it. Then people started sending me flat earth stuff. And I was like, get out of here. Delete, ban people from our social media for even suggesting that I waste my time. But then I was forced to look. And when I looked, I went in with a closed mind to debunk it. I said, I'm going to prove the globe and disprove flat earth and be done with it. Because we all know there's millions of proofs of the globe and none of flat earth. Well, the opposite is true. There's zero proof of the globe, and there's tons of proof of flat earth, stuff that you can verify yourself. So that's the short and long of it.
Cool. So one of my questions was, does flat earth to you mean that everything about space is a lie, including there being other universes and galaxies out there?
Yeah, so let's just come back down to Earth for a second. What is flat Earth? It's not a disc in space. As you don't go to the edge and fall off. The flat Earth is
Okay.
like a big pond. So a pond is what? Where water accumulates in the low spot in the land, right? And a pond at
Yes.
rest is flat. And the edge of the pond is what? Is it the edge of a pancake? No, it's the edge of the pond where the land is higher than the water. You with me? So
Mm-hmm.
think of all of the oceans of the world as a giant pond, and all of the continents are surrounded by water. But the water needs to be contained. It's surrounded by the highest land on Earth. The highest land on Earth is Antarctica. Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom of a spinning ball flying through an infinite vacuum. Antarctica is the shoreline that surrounds the world pond. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. Did you know that? Did they forget to teach you that in geology class?
Who knows if they taught it to me or not? But I don't remember a
They
lot.
didn't. They don't teach that.
Okay.
They don't want you to know that. Okay. I mean,
Right.
they might have mentioned it, but they don't, no one ever really thinks about it.
I don't remember that fact sticking
Yeah.
out to me.
It's the highest land on Earth. We live in the Antarctic basin. So the question is, what is beyond the shoreline of Antarctica? right? And the answer is no one's allowed to go there. So how the heck would I know, right? But
Right.
there's lots of reports. Admiral Byrd in 1950s
Yep.
was out there and said that beyond the pole. Now think about that, on a ball beyond the pole. How do you go beyond the pole? It's kind of like beyond the pole, but if you're on the other side of the world, it's before the pole. He said there's land bigger than the United States that no man has ever seen or stepped foot on, and it's filled with resources. At a time when all of the countries were killing each other, environmentalism wasn't even a word. They all signed a treaty that says nobody can explore Antarctica until the year 2041. And we must protect the wildlife, which is only penguins. And we can't even fly an airplane over Antarctica because it would disturb the migration patterns of the penguins. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Right? This is the official story. But go ahead,
Yeah.
deforest the Amazon. Every treaty in human history has been broken. Just ask the Indians if you don't believe me. Except this one. This one's still in effect. Anyone that tries to go to Antarctica is threatened to be sunk on their boat or arrested. Now wait, lots of people go to Antarctica. There's about 10 or 15 different companies that you can book a short vacation to Antarctica where they take you to this little peninsula. They show you some ice. They show you some penguins. They show you a pole. They tell you it's the South Pole, but you have no way to verify it because the compasses don't work and GPS doesn't work. And by the way, those 10 or 15 companies are all owned by the same company. So it's really one company pretending to be 10 competing companies. Right.
Kind of like the mainstream media.
Yeah, exactly. You're very good. I like you. And then they kick you out. That's it. So what's beyond Antarctica? Getting back to your question, so is there outer space? Well, if this is where we live in Antarctica, let's call this the inner space. What's beyond? What would you call the land? What would you call beyond the shoreline of Antarctica?
Outer space.
What if there was other terra out there? Terra is land. What would you call more terra? What's another way to say more terra?
Extraterrestrial.
Extraterrestrials. From where do they come from? The outer space across the Earth plane. Do you know that science says that the universe is flat? Do you notice that even though we're corkscrewing through space, supposedly, all of the planets are circling the sun on the same plane? They're all on the same plane. How come they're not going, like a friggin' nuclear atom or whatever, in all different directions? How come they're all on the same plane? And the answer is because they're not planets. They're wandering stars. And they're above the Earth plane and they circle over our magnetic center. We live in this toroidal field where the center of the Earth is the magnetic north. So the center of our world pond, just think of it as a pond, there's a magnetic mountain there, or magnetic force. And if you try to go east or west, you have to keep turning to the north to maintain that heading. That's how you can leave New York heading east, and you have to keep turning to maintain that eastward setting. And then you end up back in New York, and a globie would tell you that you went around a ball when you just went around the lake. So what are those lights we see in the sky? I mean, have you ever looked up and seen Mars when it's in the sky? Probably, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
kind of reddish. It's got a red tint to it, and it's brighter than any other star. So, if you look at pictures from the, alleged pictures from the Mars rover, um, does that look like a very reflective surface, if you will?
No.
No. So the pictures of the Mars rover show a dusty, dirty ball. And because Mars is farther from the sun than Earth is, the sun is smaller and less bright. So how does that dusty, dirty ball reflect light all the way back to Earth brighter than any other star? That's crazy. And if you look at pictures of Mars,
I was just going to say, you mean Greenland?
yeah, Greenland, right? So that's where they do their training. Why are they doing that? So again, the brightness of Mars proves that it's not a dusty, dirty ball reflecting light. And our optics have outgrown their lies. So So if you look up at Mars you can buy this is the first thing I did when I heard of this stuff. I bought a Nikon P900 super zoom camera. And when you zoom in on something like Mars, you see that it's an energetic light pulsating, right? All of these wandering stars, also known as planets, are all named after demigods. Okay. So what are they? You got me. What are stars? They're not lights billions of miles away. We can prove that scientifically. If you want to discuss that, I will. But they're here within the Earth system. Everything that we see in the sky, the only thing that we could accurately say about it is they're lights. Because if they weren't lights, we wouldn't be able to see them. We can't say how big they are, how far they are. We can't say anything. NASA says that Venus is about the same size as Earth. Okay. I say Venus is the size of a basketball. You can't prove either one of us right.
So what we're looking at here is just Earth, the inner space, if you will.
Earth.
And the firmament is kind of keeping all of the different gases also kind of. So
So
how does gravity play into this?
let's hit the gases first, and then we'll get
Okay.
into gravity. Okay. So we're told that, we live in this high pressure system, and we're told that space is a vacuum. Do you know that they can't even make a vacuum on Earth because nature abhors a vacuum? There's a vacuum chamber that NASA has. It has walls 11 feet thick of steel of lead, I think, and they can't make a perfect vacuum, but they can make it, pretty good. They can suck most of the air out of it, but it would collapse. You've seen the train car shrink, when they suck the air out of the train car. So a vacuum, it doesn't work very well next to a high pressure system without a physical barrier. Now, a lot of flat earthers think that there's a physical barrier because you can't have high pressure next to a vacuum, but I don't believe space is a vacuum. I believe space is liquid. And if you listen to NASA, every single thing they say about space, ships docking, Voyagers, the Sea of Tranquility, everything they talk about is oceanic terms. Okay, so that's interesting at best, at least. So where we're going with that? Oh, we were talking about high pressure next to no pressure. Yeah. So the only globe answer they have is gravity. The gravity is their favorite. Gravity is their god. But we can disprove gravity with a straw. Grab a straw, stick it in your mouth, point it downwards, and inhale. With the weak vacuum of your mouth and lungs, you could suck air up and away from the earth with zero effort. You could suck water up and away from Earth at any altitude. So that disproves gravity being able to hold, air down all the way into space. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. And the other thing is, in the heliocentric model, they tell us that all of the rocks and dirt accumulated into rocky balls. And then for some reason, all of the gases accumulated into giant, bigger, more gravitational balls that burst into nuclear fusion because of so much gravity. So they created a vacuum. Everything coalesced into balls and left a vacuum in between. Go ahead and try to make a gas ball in a vacuum. You can't do it. It's the most ridiculous thought experiment ever. But they're telling us that there's all these gas balls at unfathomable distances. Let's talk about distances. Then we'll get into what gravity is. All right. So where do my props go? So the sun, they tell us, if the sun was one of those big yoga balls, how big would the Earth be? Like a marble, right?
Okay, yeah.
Right? That's what they tell us. So if the sun, they tell us it's 93 million miles away. If the sun was a mile over your head and you looked up, what would you see? You would see this. It would fill the whole sky, right?
Yeah.
Then I move it 93 million miles away. It gets smaller. Why is it getting smaller?
Because it's further away.
Perspective. Very good. Very easy question. I got no tricky questions for you.
Good thing I could answer that one then.
Yeah, you're going to answer all of them. So at 93 million miles away, the sun becomes the size of a coin held at arm's length.
Right.
If I doubled the distance, how much smaller would it get?
Half that size.
Oh, well, it went from the entire sky to the size of a quarter. So I would call
So
that
a dot.
one 100 millionth of the size that it was.
Okay,
So if I
right.
doubled the distance, you can do math and find out that its angular size would be too small for your eye to resolve. But
Okay.
let's just be safe. 8 times as far. We make
Okay.
it 8 times as far. We're going to call that the Lala can't see the sun because it's too far distance. Okay. All right. Nobody can see the sun because it's too far distance. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
That's a light hour.
Okay.
So a light hour is the distance light travels in an hour.
Got
So
it.
at a light hour, we could not see our sun. The nearest star, the closest star, is 4.5 light years away. The other stars are magnitudes farther.
Yeah.
Nonsense. They've convinced you
Right.
to trade in common sense for nonsense. The better you do in school, the dumber you are, or the more indoctrinated. I don't want to call you dumb.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
calling you either. The more indoctrinated you are. It's like if you got straight A's,
Exactly.
you are indoctrinated. Now you can get straight A's and not believe it and just did it for the A's to succeed in life and say, oh, I don't believe any of that crap, but I passed their stupid tests. Unfortunately, most people believe all the stuff that they memorized in school.
That's why I think that doctors are some of the worst in that respect because they go to school the longest and
Right.
they teach them all the
Nothing about
holistic
nutrition.
stuff is
Yeah.
pseudoscience, when if they would have just done
Yeah.
studies and research on it, they could probably save people's life without using big pharma. But obviously we know why they don't do that.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So all right. So now let's get into gravity. They tell us so gravity is just a theory. It makes absolutely no sense. They made it up, and they have to supplement 96% of it or whatever with dark matter and dark energy because this is their excuse. Well, there has to be dark matter, dark energy because gravity doesn't make sense without it. Well, here's a little secret: it doesn't make sense with it either. Okay. So they're saying we can't see 96% of what's out there because it's dark matter and dark energy, but it has gravity, right? That does that sound a little fishy to start with?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're taught that the sun is holding on to the planets. The planets are going around the sun, right? Here's a planet going around the sun. And the distance is like if the sun was a yoga ball, Earth is like 2.5 football fields away. Right? But somehow that gassy ball can hold on to the Earth. But the Earth, that little tiny marble, is holding on to a moon that's orbiting it. The sun is also holding on to all of the other planets too. And all of the planets are holding on to their moons. The sun doesn't like moons. It's sun gravity is only for planets. Planet gravity is only for moons. Okay. They didn't teach you about sun gravity and planet gravity, right? I'm making
I
it
don't
up
think so.
because it's all
Okay.
bullshit. Okay.
Right.
So
But yeah,
when the moon travels in between the sun and the earth, that's when it's a new moon for us, but that doesn't matter. If the moon is in between the sun and the earth, how come the sun doesn't rip it away from the earth or at least tug on it a little bit? Right?
mhm.
It doesn't. It doesn't happen. The sky is a perfect clock. The moon keeps track of the months. Did you know that there used to be 13 months? They were called moons, and there were 28 days each.
No, I did not.
Yeah, it's crazy. But they changed it. They hijacked our calendar. So real quick, and then we'll get into gravity. There's a thing called we're in direct gravity, actually. The 3-body problem. You can take the world's best supercomputer and you can create a model. Say, all right, I got the sun, it's got this much gravity, I got this planet, and I put them into orbit, and it works beautifully. They can calculate where it's going to be and an infinite number of years into the future, and it just works like a perfect clock. Then they add one more body, either a orbiting moon or another planet into that model. The entire model falls apart, goes into chaos mode, and they can never guess what's going to happen next.
It's really mind blowing just I literally feel my cognitive dissonance, which I have like for nothing. And I'm not attached to the globe
Sure, we
theory
are.
either. Like
We're all.
in
Listen,
my
I am ripping the foundation of your world belief out from underneath you
it's like my brain doesn't want to compute it.
because we create a world with our mind around us, a safe world. You've created your space. You have your family, you have your home, you know where you can go and where you're safe. You've created this. When I like, if I are your parents alive?
They are.
If I told you they were serial killers, would you believe me?
Maybe one of them.
All right. All right. My point is,
But yes, I get your point.
This is bigger than that. This is bigger than
Right.
that. But I'm not ripping the foundation. I'm destroying a fake foundation of spinning out of control, lost in an infinite vacuum where anything could kill you at any moment. I want to place you at the center of creation, where you are a super powerful spiritual being having an experience here in a very safe place where there are no shortages. There's nothing. All the fear that the mainstream news and media and they teach us in school. Think about this. You send a kid to school, right? They teach them about dinosaurs, where asteroids kill all the dinosaurs. What does that do to a little kid's psyche? Well, an asteroid, they immediately put together that it could kill them. And then the first,
you don't think dinosaurs are real though, right? Because dinosaurs are fake also.
you know that.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
What if I said, look, I have a picture of a dinosaur?
That's a really cool piece of art. I mean,
well, that we'll get into that in a little
that's
bit.
That's a meme. That's a meme.
Yeah, and so is every picture of the Earth from space. It's a meme. They're all
every
memes.
Dinosaur, every planet.
Yeah,
fake.
they're all
CGI.
They're all, and I'm not just saying it's CGI. It's provably CGI. So we talked about the 3-body problem. That doesn't work. Every test for gravity has failed. Did you go away? There you go. And so what is gravity? So the Earth has, you've heard of free energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Tesla proved that the Earth, the Earth has a negative charge to it, scientifically, testably provable negative charge to it. We live in basically a giant battery where the sun and the moon are the cathode and anode of a battery system. The salt water carries the current, the land is the salt bridge, and it's literally a giant battery. And when you leave the Earth, every meter you rise up, there's another 100 volts of electricity in the air. We live in this electric magnetic world where the only true forces are electricity and magnetism. So let's think about the force of electricity. The Earth has a negative charge. The Earth is stationary. It's not moving. It's not going up or down. Up is up for me. Up is up for someone in Australia. Up is not down for someone in Australia. Or reverse. Up is up for everybody. Left and right, forward and backwards are all relative to the direction that you're facing. But up is up for you and up is up for me. So when something leaves the Earth, that negative charge of the Earth isn't moving, attracts it. It's a weak force, just like they say gravity is a weak force. And it says, hey, down is this way. That's all it says. Just a little down is this way. Then buoyancy and density sort everything else out. If I drop these balls and some rocks over a pool, they'd both fall through the air because they're more dense than the air. The Earth's negative charge is pulling them downwards. And then the balls would sit on top of the pool water and the rocks would go to the bottom because the balls are less dense than the water and the rocks are more dense. So buoyancy and density sort everything else out. Now, there's still people that will argue that there's no downward force, that it's just buoyancy and density. The problem with what I have with that is if I had a ball here and I dropped it, okay, you could say that, the Earth is down. But what if the Earth disappeared? How would the ball know which way to go? It wouldn't. It doesn't matter how dense it is. It needs to go towards something that attracts it. And so the negative force of the Earth. So how can we test this? Well, you ever see those tinfoil triangles where they put a negative charge into them and then they float up into the air? As soon as that negative charge is stronger than the charge of the Earth and its weight combined, it goes up away from the ground. So we're not defying gravity. We're just defying the negative charge of the Earth. Okay.
That's interesting. No, I'm watching this in full.
Are the wheels?
It's such a simple science experiment to do
Yeah.
also. And so let's get into the whys, because I think even the people who are in this truther movement have this block. There's two severe blocks. There's religion, people who are super religious, they don't
Yep.
really go into that, they immediately turn it off. And then there's the flat earth. People get pissed when you touch that
Nobody likes having their
line.
ball taken away.
So let's talk about why. Why would they lie to us about this? I mean, they lie to us about everything else,
Yeah.
but
The first thing is my co-host on the Flat Earth podcast, Matt Long, his channel's Woke Town. He comes from the Bible side of the fence. He's really into the Bible. And the Bible is a flat earth book. Basically, from page 1, it says God separated the waters from the waters and put in the firmament. That's the dome, right? So, Werner von Braun, who is the German scientist who was rocket scientist that was brought over to run NASA. You're familiar with him?
yes.
Werner von Braun, rocket scientist that was brought over to run NASA. He, on his gravestone, all it says is his date of birth and Psalms 19:1. And Psalms 19:1 talks about the firmament. I'm just trying to find the exact quote so I don't butcher it. And it said, oh, I wish I could find it. It said, God, it basically talked about how God separated the waters from the waters and put the firmament over their head to showeth his handiwork. I wish I had the exact quote because I always get yelled at by the Christians for
It
not
says the
quoting it.
heavens declare the glory of God
There you go.
and the firmament shows his handiwork.
There you go. And that's pretty interesting that the rocket scientist has that on his grave, right? Another quick funny thing about Werner von Braun is before he came over in the 1950s, he wrote a book called Project Mars. And it's oh, there it is. There's a gravestone for those of you looking. Um, he wrote a book called Project Mars, and it was about a group of people that went to Mars to start a colony. And the leader of that Mars colony, you want to take a guess on what his name was? Elon.
No.
Elon.
Okay.
Right? This is called predictive programming. They
Right.
predictively program. Arthur C. Clarke, wrote a book about satellites, and then all of a sudden they invented satellites. There's the royal guy in the 1800s wrote a paper out theorizing dinosaurs. No one had ever found a dinosaur ever before that. And then a year later to the day, he discovers the first dinosaur, right? They pre-program us with all of this stuff. But the funny thing is, on the cover of his book, it matches the rocket pretty much that Elon is planning on taking to Mars.
Right.
They're really screwing with us. They're mocking us in many, many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I do agree that the Bible does have a lot of truths in it, but there's so many different versions of it that there's also a lot of lies in it. And it's
Absolutely.
used to control people.
100%.
And that's the thing, is like the same way with anything. I think it's a tool to be used, but the way that they're using it is also a tool to control the masses.
Right. And here's the way I never lead with anything from the Bible. I just show the science. There's science that just proves it, and common sense that proves it. I mean, the next time you go outside, ask yourself, are you spinning, whirling, twirling, and rocketing in 4 different directions at once? Or is the earth perfectly still, just like it seems, just like everything that we sense? I mean, no one's ever seen curvature. No one's ever measured any curvature. No one's ever measured any axial rotation or any movement of anything. The only thing that we see moving is the stars, the lights in the sky that circle around us, and those are fully explainable on a flat Earth. The way we see the sky, the optics of the sky are no way to prove the flat Earth, because if the sky is water and the dome is like glass, what you're seeing it could mean you don't know what direction things are going when you're looking through a liquid atmosphere, moisture in the atmosphere. Um, Directions are completely, it doesn't matter. Looking up at the sky is no way to prove the earth is flat. As a matter of fact, today's the day of this recording. Today's featured video on the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app is about how one of the arguments, the only argument that they have left, is how come the sun doesn't get smaller when it's setting? Because because they believe it's going around a ball, but it's
Mhm.
because the way we see through the sky, through the lens of the sky, things there's a very good reason the sun doesn't get smaller. Hard to explain here. We've got videos in the app, where does the
Right.
sun go, that explain it. But if you look, there's many places where you can watch the sunset and the sun is clearly just going away and it's not going down. I've filmed many times with my drone on super clear days when it's really, it has to be really cold, so there's no humidity in the air. The sun will go down, 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 and then it'll stop. If the earth was turning, the sun would never stop. It would just keep on going. But it stops and then it just goes away and it fades away into the thickness of the atmosphere. Right?
Do you know what a lunar wave is?
Yeah, yeah. So Crow 777, he filmed the first lunar wave. Do I know what it is, or I know of it? Nobody can really say
Yeah,
what it is.
does that play into the flat
Yeah.
earth story?
Well, as a matter of fact, when Crow discovered the lunar wave, that's just after that flat Earth really hit the scene. Crow didn't even know what he got when he had it. He sat on it for a year or 2 years before he released it. And and a lot of people say, well, it's jet trails, it's this and that. It's not. It's been filmed a dozen or more times. It's been filmed going in front of other wandering stars. I believe Jupiter, and I believe it's been filmed going in front of the sun, but they always come in pairs of two heading in the same direction at a certain interval. So what is it? A lot of people claim that it's a malfunction in the video screen of your camera, but by Crow
Uh-huh.
moving the camera and getting ahead of the wave and then having the wave catch up again, that disproves that just takes that completely out of the possibility. So what is it? Great question.
What
Don't
do you
know.
think it is?
I think it has something to do with I don't, what, it
I
could
have to
have
look into it. He's coming on my show next week, so I'm
oh,
trying to wrap
awesome.
my brain around it as well.
Crow and I are buddies. Make sure you tell him that I was on, and he will
Okay.
blow your mind. Ask him what the lunar wave is, and ask him about. He's going to talk to you about the second sun. Can you?
Okay.
Oh, I can't. This is an audio podcast, so it won't be good for me to show. But I have a video. We've been talking about what causes the eclipse, right? What causes the eclipse of the sun? Now, the lunar, supposedly it's that when the moon goes in between the sun and the earth, when it's lined up perfectly, it causes an eclipse. So you're looking up at the sun from certain areas on earth, and the moon perfectly matches the size of the sun, because the sun is 400 times bigger but 400 times farther. Impossible. But and that causes a lunar eclipse. During a total lunar eclipse, you should be able to see the moon because the sun's blocked out. The earth shine because there's a full earth, like a full moon, shining back at the moon. In the heliocentric system, it should light the moon up 6 times brighter than the moon lights the earth up. And the moon definitely lights the earth up. You can read by a full moon in the middle of nowhere. No one has ever seen the moon approaching the sun or exiting the sun or even covering the sun. No one's seen it from Earth with infrared telescopes, from an airplane, from the International Fake Station. No one's ever seen it. So Crow makes the statement, the moon has nothing to do with the eclipse of the sun. And in the way that they tell us an eclipse happens, he's right, but I don't believe that the moon that we see has anything to do with the eclipse of the sun. I believe that the sun and the moon are not physical. They're being projected or focused into our world, into our dome. And the real sun and the real moon are outside of the dome. So imagine this. You ever see you ever go to a rear projection screen? Not a
Hmm.
rear projection TV, but they have the big screen and the projectors on the back projecting onto a sheet, and you can see it from the opposite side. And
Yeah.
if you look really careful at the sheet, you can see the light of the projector through the sheet.
Right.
That's the real sun. And it's projecting the sun into our world. So you got the real sun projecting in. You have the new moon, which isn't lit up, so there's nothing to project in, and it blocks the sun. And that way you would never see it coming because there's nothing being projected in, and then it eclipses the sun, and then it leaves, and you would never see it leave because there's nothing being projected in. And I made a little model of it, and it perfectly matched what we see during a total eclipse. On the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, you click eclipses, and that video's in there. That's worth the $3 for the app all in itself, just that one video. And once you see that, you'll be like, all right, now my mind is really screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for the listeners because he has a ton of visuals that he's
I'm
showing
trying
me.
to
So
I'm trying to describe things like I
you're
don't have
doing
the
a great
visuals.
job, but
Yeah.
I think that that's a good tip. If you want to see some of the visuals of this, go on the app and it's all on
Yeah.
there.
It'll be
So,
this video, this audio will be on the app under interviews. This video,
oh,
so
cool.
because I'm videoing it, and I will put it. There's in the app on one of the pages that has all of the extras. One of them is interviews, and it has over 200 of my interviews where you can see
Awesome.
exactly what I'm saying.
So that's kind of how I understood the lunar waves when I was reading about it, is that it is a hologram essentially.
Don't use that word hologram. But it's like
Why?
a hologram. We don't know. What is it? A hologram? Is it a projection? Is it a focus
Yeah,
point
that
of
well,
energy? Hologram
right.
is a
But
generic term. We'll say that.
that is kind of what it was alluding to, that it was a possibility. It could be a hologram, which again, total mind fuck of the indoctrination
Yeah.
of people. Because I mean, well, that was kind of where my mind was going to, is because I love to fish. And I know that the moon affects the fish and their behaviors and the tides and all of that.
Yeah.
So I was wondering where that source came from, either way, if that were to be true. I want to ask you about your thoughts on the theory of the earth being hollow and how that fits in as well.
Yeah, I think the hollow earth was added in after Admiral Byrd went to Antarctica and said he went beyond Antarctica and found all this land. So they gave us the hollow earth story to gatekeep our minds again, to make us believe that we're still on a. It doesn't matter whether the ball is a hollow or not. It's a ball. That means we're in a prison. The globe is a prison for your mind, whether it's hollow or not. Okay. So, but am I saying that there's nothing underneath us? I think there's another realm underneath us. The deepest hole we can go is 7.5 miles. There could be a whole nother world below us. There could be another heavenly world above us. Maybe there's a more heavenly, less dense world, non-physical world above us. And maybe down below us, there's a more dense world.
Well, that fits into all my beliefs because I believe in planes of existence. I believe that, and it also fits into kind of like the fifth, like the 5D things that people have been talking about, and
Yep.
higher consciousness and all of that. Um, Things quite literally being taken. And that's another thing about the Bible. Sometimes people take things not literally enough or too literally. And sometimes the Bible just tells you what it is, like firmament. I mean, what else could that mean?
Right. People make excuses up all the time. You can make an excuse up for anything. I'd love to be a flat earth debunker, because you can just make up anything. Everything NASA tells us is all unverifiable. Everything I'm telling you, you can go verify it yourself. Don't believe anything I'm telling you. Take your time and go verify it yourself. Okay.
Okay, so where were you?
Um, I am not
I think it
100%
was
sure.
Hollow Earth, which you were
Oh,
just
yeah.
saying it was kind of like another story.
Yeah. Another.
And when I
Go
was
ahead.
looking on your page too at some of like the FAQs that were there, and the Felix Baumgartner Red Bull dive, because I remember that so well watching that on live TV. Is that just another episode of like CGI?
No, that was real. So
Really?
well, let me tell you what happened. He did two test jumps before that. And they were filmed where they showed a flat level horizon. But for the one they did on TV, they use GoPros which bend horizons. It's called a fisheye lens. So the famous shot where you see the globe Earth You look at the
Right.
land. Well, if we look, if you look at all the land and look at all the rivers and everything, it's all Arizona. Is it Arizona or New Mexico? It's all New Mexico. The entire thing. So New Mexico covers a quarter of the earth. It's
How did
all
you know it's all New Mexico though?
because if you zoom in on all of the pictures and look at the rivers and everything and all
Oh,
the topography, but then we have the video and the that they of the previous jumps, and the horizon was flat and level. Also, there's a picture, there's a still frame of him when he's getting in the capsule on the ground, and you can see the horizon at the flat and level at the camera level, and then at 127,000 feet when he opens the door, the horizon's at the exact same level and it's flat, but the outside cameras are fisheye. Right at 120, that he's at 127,000 feet, it's flat and stationary. I mean, and the other thing is, at 127,000 feet, the Earth is flat. Okay, the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour to the east. Okay, so it's spinning to the east, which means anything as a ball, the sun would be going to the west because it's spinning to the east, right? Spinning to the east. He went up for 3.5 hours and jumped down and landed east of where he took off. He should have landed 3,000 miles out in the ocean, but he landed east of where he took off.
is he must have been in the firmament though,
No, he only
right?
went up to 127,000 feet. That's not that high. That's
Okay.
20. That's like 20 miles,
Okay.
right? I think the firmament is more like maybe 75 miles up, but we don't know. There's a if you look at all the NASA fake rockets and stuff, they curve out and go into the Bermuda Triangle and crash basically. But in Arizona, the Go Fast rocket went up, amateur rocket. I think it was sponsored by, might have been Red Bull. I'm not sure, but they gave us an uninterrupted video looking down. Unlike NASA, where you watch any launch, you get 7 cuts within the first 10 seconds, like a movie, because it is a movie. And then it hit something. It went kerplunk. You heard it go into something more viscous. I think it was like plasma or just a thicker medium, maybe just frozen air. I don't know what it is because the temperature was almost absolute zero. But while it was up there, it saw the moon, and the moon was over New Zealand at that time. So if the Earth is a basketball and that rocket was on top of the basketball, it would be a fraction of a millimeter over the basketball. Like let's call it a half a millimeter, whatever. And New Zealand is on the bottom of that basketball. How would it see the moon? All you need is one proof that the Earth isn't a globe, and it's not a
Right.
globe, and we have thousands of them. Okay, the only thing that they have is excuses, math equations. We don't live on a math equation. You're familiar with the story of Aristophanes, right? The Greek mathematician that discovered the Earth was with the sticks and shadows. Do you remember that from school?
Barely.
Yeah. So the story is, he was noticed that at the bottom of a well on a certain day of the year, he could see the sun's reflection. So he knew that the sun was directly above him. Makes sense. And so he came up with an idea. He would send his friend 500 miles away, and he would put a stick up, and Aristophanes put a stick straight up and down. Aristophanes' stick had no shadow. His buddy's stick had a shadow. You can do some very good math, some spherical geometry or trigonometry, and he figured out the sphericity of the ball. And the show Cosmos with Carl Sagan drilled that into everyone's head. He had his thing and he bent the cardboard. He says the only way this would work is on a ball, and he figured out the size of the Earth within 2% of what we say it is today. And everybody just believes that. One, I don't believe Aristophanes ever did that experiment. Two, it doesn't matter if he did it because it doesn't make a difference because it works on a flat Earth also. Three, that experiment isn't in any books until the late 1900s. Okay. And he supposedly did it 2,000 years ago. On a flat Earth, you can have a small local sun Aristophanes' stick would have no shadow, and his buddy 500 miles away would have a shadow with the same angle. You could do the same math and find out the sphericity of this flat level surface. We don't live on a math equation. Math describes things, doesn't tell you that they're real. It just describes things. You could use the same
Carl
math
Sagan, do
on
you think was kind of
what?
a plant then to perpetuate the
Aristophanes?
lie?
Aristophanes or Felix?
Carl Sagan.
Oh, Carl Sagan, absolutely. He's 100% shill. He was a deceiver.
What
All
about
of the
what about
mainstream
like
science,
Albert Einstein then and
total moron.
Albert Einstein?
He was
Really?
Albert Einstein is a meme essentially. He married his cousin, and I'm not saying that's even a bad thing because the Royals know about keeping their bloodline strong. But
Keeping it in the family.
he was brought in to get rid of the ether because they needed his theory of relativity to maintain perpetuate the globe theory.
So, but Nikola Tesla was probably the only
Nikola Tesla, yeah, he probably came from Tataria. He was probably a leftover from the Tatarian Empire, and he had real technology. Well, this world was a totally different place 150 years ago. There was, giant flying ships, buildings. There was giants here. There was all sorts of stuff going on. Free energy, a worldwide civilization, building stuff that we can't build today. You look at the old pictures of these magnificent castles and buildings, and you look, and they had, with giant domes and towers, and they were on horse and buggy. How is a horse and buggy going to build that when our biggest cranes today couldn't build it? Or couldn't build it easily.
I've been meaning to look into Tartaria a little bit. I just know it's kind of like a lost civilization.
Yeah. So on my app, if you press the web button on the bottom left-hand corner, we have mud floods in Tartaria. And there's a ton of videos that'll get you going there. Also, check out the channel John Levy, JONLEVI. He'll blow your mind with his stuff. He does these 20-minute videos. He speaks very quietly, mellow tone, but his videos are outstanding.
Cool.
Transcontinental railroads were not built, they were excavated.
Underground.
They were dug out of the ground. They were here before we got here. There was some sort of catastrophe or reset that happened, and the people that came out on top decided to hide the world from us because they hate the creator. Whatever the creator is, that's fine. That's everyone else's journey. But I believe that we are here. We have a soul, and that soul, maybe stars are souls, and we come here to incarnate in this realm, and we're having this experience to expand the mind of the creator. And all we have to do is maintain control of our soul, and we protect our soul. We have like layers of shields over it. That's like love and joy and happiness and ambition and all of these curiosity, right? All of these things, these life forces that are protecting our soul. Well, the evil ones want you to live in fear. They want to take away your drive. They want to kill love. They want to kill the family. And once they take away all those layers, then they want to steal your soul. And that's when they can, when you're down and completely out of it, that's when you lose control of your soul. And our whole job here is to maintain control of our soul. Souls are
that's like one of my favorite explanations I've ever heard.
Oh, thank you.
But so how do you think, you keep talking about these people in control. Who are these people to you? Do you think that, obviously we talked about extraterrestrial beings being from the outer space in that way of the outer land. Yeah. However, and I believe there's reptilians and like different species living here among us.
Can't rule it out.
What is your
I'm with you on that. Like, do I think the queen is a reptile with reptile eyes? Well, I'm not going to say she's not, but I just like,
maybe not.
There's a lot of really weird stuff going on, but these royal families, these bloodlines, they have plans. Like Would you make a plan for 150 years from now? Of course not. Like you like, all right, you've settled in. Your life's going to be like 100 years or whatever it is, and that's it. These people, maybe by keeping their bloodlines pure, they have genetic memory and they can come back and with all their memories. So if you knew that you could have this life and then come back, be born again, and have all your memories, um, that's kind of interesting, right? You could make
Well,
some
I
much
do
longer
think that you
plans.
probably could if you were aware of your consciousness,
Yes,
which most
yes.
people are not.
Right. They have us thinking that we're an insignificant speck flying on a speck, flying through an infinite universe where an asteroid could take us out at any moment. We're running out of food. We're not running out of food. We're running out of water. There's infinite water. We're running out of fuel. We don't need fuel, right? All of this fear. Uh, and then they have us believing that, and eating crap and injecting crap and breathing crap. I mean, they're keeping us sick, and our minds are calcified, and we're unable to use our minds to create the world that we want. If everybody woke up tomorrow and we all just joined and just said no, they'd be done. We are the many. They are nothing. They are nothing. So they divide us by countries, which is fake division. They divide us by political parties, by race, by sex, by sports teams, by now they have divided us. Don't come within 6 feet of somebody because they'll kill you. The then they have us covering our faces. Your face, your smile is proof of God. Think what a smile does to somebody. You smile at somebody, change their whole day, right? That's not just a random accident.
Right. I know. And then I've also heard about the whole 6 feet thing being like
Your heart
part of your
energy.
energy grid.
Yeah.
Um, and
We're
that, I, I mean,
we're
like you said, your smile, also hugging someone, being in physical contact. So one of the ways they used to torture MK Ultra victims was sensory deprivation. And that's what
Yep.
they're doing like on a wide scale,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. I hate seeing little kids around masked people, and especially masked kids. It's unbelievable. I it's very, very difficult to see, and the damage that they're doing to kids right now is unbelievable. I mean, they're controlling our minds with cartoons. Okay, our entire world is being controlled with cartoons. You ever see the masks that people wear in industry, like a miner's mask, a painter's mask, a pesticide
Yeah.
mask? They don't look anything like those little cloth diapers we're putting over our face. The most deadly virus in the world, we can just put a little, maxi pad over our face. Okay, it's the dumbest thing ever.
Right. Okay. I had another question for you. So,
Dude.
before we started recording the show, you kind of asked me my stance on it. And when I set up the show, the questionnaire goes into the views of people. And I'm guessing that you've been on devil's advocate type shows with people who believe the earth is round. How does that typically go? What's your success rate in those types of episodes?
Yeah, so I prefer shows where people think they're where they when you book a show with me, you have a choice: spinning ball, flat earth, or not so sure, and you chose not so sure. And that's fine. I'm happy with that. When someone says they believe it's flat and stationary, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Another preaching to the choir. But those shows are fun too. I love going into shows where they say it's absolutely ball and you're crazy. You're batshit crazy, Dave. And those are the shows I like going on. My success rate is very high, but there are some people. There are some people that are just not meant for truth. They're just not there for truth, and they can't hear anybody that listens to what I say and has a brain that can think. The problem is many brains can't think anymore. They're too calcified. Their pineal glands are completely shut down, and their egos are too strong for them to ever admit they've been lied to. So I can see, because I can see your face, I can see your eyes, I can see the micro expressions on your face. I know that you're somebody that can think and can understand, and that um, you get it. You're there already. You just have some stuff to work out, but you're already there. Gun to your head, 3 seconds. Earth flat or ground or round? Flat or globe? Three,
Flat.
two. There you go. Done. I mean, I can tell because I can see you. And you're having
um,
crow on, so I know.
yeah, I'm very excited about that. So, talk about all the lunar waves and all of that. What other kind of, so I hate to call this a conspiracy theory, and the word itself I use
Weaponized.
very loosely,
Right.
because it's like, I mean, pretty much everything I believe these days is a conspiracy theory. But what are some of your other favorite rabbit holes to go down? You mentioned the Federal Reserve and all of that. What other types of things are you into?
What platform is this going on?
Oh, I don't care
All right.
about that. It's going on all of them. I haven't been kicked off any yet, but
Yeah.
I'm not afraid if I am. So please go ahead.
Well, I won't get into them, but 9/11, Sandy Hook,
Oh,
Boston.
I've already covered those on previous episodes.
Yeah, yeah. So if you really want to know, go to stoplookthink.com. That is a website that now has all of the stuff that YouTube has deleted, everything. So, vaccinations are the biggest scam of all time. They're the reason people are sick and stupid and dying. Um, not I used to have, I think I called exposing the big three: 9/11, Sandy Hook, and Boston. You wake somebody up to those, they should start to be able to see the world. The problem is you can wake them up to those and then they just go right back to work, because they can put it out of their head. But once you see that the earth is not a spinning ball flying through space, every waking step you take, it affects you everywhere, wherever you are. Flat earth is for every single person on earth. Somebody in Germany, do they care about 9/11 or the Boston Marathon? No, not crossing their mind. But flat earth, absolutely. Somebody in Africa, somebody in South America, it doesn't matter where you are. Flat earth affects who you are, where you are, what you are. And once you understand the importance of the lie, then you start to understand how important it is to know the truth and take back your power. Nobody has dominion over you. You are your
Right.
own creator, and nobody can take away your free will. You're allowed to give it away, and they're allowed to trick you into giving it away. And if they, trick you and you don't say no, you're saying yes.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
agree. And that's kind of part of like the whole mocking thing that you're talking about, and being a sovereign being. They
Yep.
mock you in your face, and the fact that you accept it, you're giving up that sovereignty that you have. I just did an episode on 9/11, focusing on like the Judy Woods, um, what is it called?
The where did
The
the towers go?
Yeah, but
Directed
what was it?
energy,
The partification
part
or dustification.
justification. Yeah.
Um, yeah, the dustification. I just did an episode on that. We talked about the Sandy Hook thing on one of my next episodes about that. That's one of the hardest ones for people because of the children.
So
They refuse
that's
to
how
think
they
about.
that's how they get you with the children,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. I
But
personally think that that entire thing there was no children hurt when
there was
you look at.
nobody died anywhere. All of
Exactly.
those, almost every
What
one
about
of those.
9/11? Did people die
Oh
to
yeah,
you
some
in
people
your?
died. Absolutely.
Yeah, on that one they did, but
Yeah, but not nearly the number that they told you. It
okay.
mostly firefighters. Um, the Sandy Hook one on stoplookthink.com. Go to hoaxes, drop down menu, go to Sandy Hook. All of the videos are there. Go to Sophia Small Storms, unraveling Sandy Hook in 3, 4, and 5 dimensions. Then you'll know there's no way anybody died at Sandy Hook. And and here's like an advanced Sandy Hook thing. Do you know about the Super Bowl that happened right after Sandy Hook?
No.
Jennifer Hudson sang at the Super Bowl, 2 months later or whatever, and they had the Sandy Hook Choir, which is a bunch of fifth graders, something like that, somewhere around there, older little kids, and they sang. 26 of them sang at the Super Bowl, and you saw them there, and the camera slowly panned across them. Every single one of them can be matched up with the 26 kids that died. They're identical older twin, or is it them just older? And we were shown younger pictures of these kids. And here's the thing. That sounds crazy. Like, why would they do that? They got the whole world watching the Super Bowl, or as many people as watch the Super Bowl, and their hearts are falling for this traumatic event, and they're staring into the eyes of the kids that died. Okay. So we did a freedom of information request for the NFL. We wanted the names of those kids. They won't give them up. We want to know who paid for their trip. They wouldn't tell us. The Newtown Home B, no, the Newtown B or whatever newspaper. If your kids represented at the Super Bowl by singing, don't you think the newspaper would cover that? Not a single article, nothing. Right. So we put out a reward. You think that there's a tragedy happened in a town, a second tragedy happened. 26 kids disappeared and they've never been seen again. The NFL took them to the Super Bowl and they've never been seen again. Not one of those kids has ever been seen again, and nobody gives a shit. Well, the reason they haven't been seen again is because it is those kids, and where they are, what they're
Right.
doing. It's unreal what they did. It's unreal, and people just can't wrap their minds around it. But take the time. As Crow says, belief is the enemy of knowing. Right? You can believe in whatever you want about Sandy Hook, but if you want to know, it takes time, and all of the information is at stoplookthink.com. Drop down hoaxes. There it is in
I
the
want to
drop
kind
down.
of talk about the Boston bombing a little bit because I haven't really reached into that one yet. And I used to live in Boston for 3 years, and I know you're in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So you've probably traveled there a bunch.
Do you know that I'm
I
in
would
Connecticut?
imagine. Well, you told me that.
Have you verified it?
I'm trusting
So
what you're
it's just a
saying.
belief. It's just a belief.
I believe that you're in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Um,
Gun to your head. 3
so
seconds. Do I live in Connecticut or not? 3, 2, 1.
yes.
All right. You're right. You live. So
Okay.
you have
I
good
have good
judgment.
intuition
You have
also.
good intuition. But what do I know about Boston other than nobody got a scratch in Boston?
So I have friends who ran the marathon that day that worked at the restaurants there, et cetera. I used to actually work at the poorhouse on Boylston Street where it happened.
Yep.
But I wasn't living there at the time. I moved there like a year
Do you
later.
know the address?
And I looked into this one too with all the, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you know the address of the finish line? What the address is on Boylston Street?
It's like 90 something.
666.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because the Clarendon I know actually now that you say that.
Sorry, good.
Sounds about right. Yeah. And I've looked into that one a lot too. They kind of scrub the internet, as you know. But the crisis actors, I mean, it was bad. So I kind of want to hear you dig into that one a little bit.
So again, you need to see this stuff, but basically a bomb went off in a knapsack, right? In the picture of the knapsack they showed, try putting a pressure cooker of any size into a knapsack. It's like the most bulky thing ever. And they showed this guy with a flabby backpack. Okay, let's just pretend it's in there. So then you put half of it with gunpowder, and the rest is ball bearings, rusty nails, and screws. That's what they said. So let's say he builds this perfect bomb and it explodes in all directions. What kind of injuries are you going to get from that? You're going to get shrapnel injuries. Well, nobody got any injuries on their face. Nobody got any injuries in their groins, but their pants were shredded, but their legs were okay, right? 10 feet away was a Nike banner on a wire mesh fence that didn't have a single hole in it, but 10 feet to the other side, Jeff Bowman got both of his legs blown clean off. Jeff Bowman lied there on the ground with both of his legs, his femurs sticking out in the air for 15 minutes before anybody came and helped him. And then they sat him upright in a wheelchair and wheeled him down the road past the television cameras. They wheeled him into a tent down the road. Oh, and while they were wheeling him, his prosthetic fell off. He had like a prosthetic piece of his leg on there, and it fell off, and they had to put it back on camera. But nobody gives a crap. Okay.
Is that all on the website as well?
It's all on the website, drop down menu, hoaxes, Boston bombing. And there's one called the Boston Unbombing. Awesome. I also did a speech with PK, who's a guy in Australia who took Boston apart in the funniest, most intense way. I was on Caravan of Midnight. We did a 3-hour breakdown with pictures and videos. That one's also good to watch on the site. And if you really want some entertainment, Betsy Lee McGee did one called Carlos Arredondo, Boston Hero. And that one's on there too. Hysterical. He's the cowboy hat, the hero that was featured on the news. He saved everybody. There's so many pictures of him just doing the dumbest things while he was waiting for his acting time, for his scene. It's unreal. And his stories contradict. I find it hilarious to watch this stuff. And some people, you're watching it for the first time, it's like upsetting. Well, the good news is nobody died. Nobody got a scratch. Nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
And ask your friends in the marathon, were they held up at it depends on when they came in, but they held the whole marathon back for like 20 minutes while at one point to stop people from going to this one area.
She worked at one of the restaurants near the
Yeah.
blast.
And then the second blast, the bomb went off, killed a whole bunch of people, but it left all the plastic beer cups on the tables with beer in them.
So how do they explain the noise then?
How do they explain the noise? You know, they're always doing drills when all of these major events happen. On morning of 9/11, there was like more than a dozen hijacking drills going on of planes being hijacked and crashed into buildings, including the World Trade Towers. So it caused so much confusion. At Sandy Hook, there was a school shooting drill happening in Sandy Hook the same day. And in Boston, during the marathon, they were doing a bomb drill of a bomb going off at the finish line. They even announced it on the PA, and they said, nothing to be fear of. We're doing a drill of a bomb, and you can hear it on the PA. Sounds
okay.
crazy.
I have to go and look into this.
Yeah.
And I know you're here for Flat Earth, but if you ever want to come back and talk about anything else,
well, go to write that. You didn't write it down yet. Stoplookthink.com. Stoplookthink.com. There's lots of stuff. You scroll down on the main page, you're going to get lost if you go there. So bring food and water. But on the top drop down, it says hoaxes. And that one has Sandy Hook and Boston in it. Spend a couple days watching those videos. They're well made. They're awesome. You know, we should charge $18 per video, just like you're going to the movies, because they're that good.
Okay.
But they're free. It's all free. Get it while you can, because it's not gonna last. They've already taken it off of YouTube, and the servers that we're using, they're eventually going to be taken down. So everything goes down the memory hole in this book burning world we live in.
I know it.
Hey, I got another show. So any final questions?
Yeah, you're busy. So no, I don't have any final questions. I just want to thank you for your time to be here. And going on your page, one of the quotes you had on there, one believes things because one has been conditioned to believe them, by Aldous Huxley. And I appreciate you kind of fucking up my listeners' indoctrination today, and hopefully they're open-minded enough to see it that way.
Check out my website, theflatearthpodcast.com. Links to the app are there. The Flat Earth Podcast Facebook page, the Flat Earth Podcast Instagram, and my YouTube channel with lots of short videos to get yourself started. It's DITRH, just the initials for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, DITRH.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you around.
All right. Thanks, Lala.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.